Welcome to DFS Insights, where the game behind the game comes to life. I am David Geislinger, and alongside me is David Grant Jr., my cousin and co-strategist. The teams up on the block are the Oklahoma City Thunder at the Dallas Mavericks.
With your lineup success as our top priority, this is where David and I will dive deep into our top 3 players that we like for this specific game in the series. We're going to break down the strategy behind our picks and share the insight that will help you get your lineups over the top and into the money. So if you could just be kind enough to go ahead and, if you do like the video, give it a like. If you like the content, go ahead and please subscribe. Um, Stay tuned till the end because we're going to give away 2 absolutely free lineups.
Going in here, game 3, I ended up pulling out pretty good placing in game 2. So looking forward to this matchup. Did flip on its head. Luka came out to his old self with the game time decision, and Vegas is right again with the favorite team losing.
I know, right?
With that, let's go ahead and before we get into game 3, let's do a quick rehash of game 2. And with that too, if you want some more additional information, we have covered all the games in this series, so you can always go back and get additional information based on previous games here on the channel. So with that, game 2's coming in. Dallas ended up pulling it off 119 to 110. Luka, PJ Washington, and Irving were the top 3 for Dallas. SGA, Jalen Williams, and Chet Holmgren ended up being the top 3 for OKC. So now game 3, we're heading back to Dallas. So they split it in OKC, so let's kind of see what's going to happen here in Dallas. Previous optimal is on the right hand side here. As you can see, I'm on the left hand side. It says 10th, but it's the second highest lineup. There's a nine-way tie there for first. Basically the only thing that I had different was I had Luka over SGA, and yeah, it was unfortunate, but it is what it is. So so here's the ownership of game 2. Luka came in at about 60, SGA about 26. Luka did end up dropping in salary, so he's actually at 16K, and SGA went up, so he's actually the highest now on the slate at 16.5. So I expect a little bit increased in MVP for him, slight decrease in the star. Pro will probably also go down as well for SGA. No significant, really, I don't see really any other change significantly. There's a few people that went down who actually had some pretty nice games. So, and then obviously, some people that went up as well. PJ Washington did take a little increase there because he had a monster game. He's at 11.5 now. So, yeah, getting over here to, game 3. Dallas is favored. Vegas is favoring Dallas. So with that logic and compared to how they've been, they're probably going to lose this matchup. The over-under sitting at about 217.5. Dallas offensive rating, they moved up at a 111.5, defensive 118.8, and their pace is at 95.75. And that's obviously inversed for Thunder. Notable injuries: Kleber is still out, and Luka is game time decision, but he's gonna play. He looked like
clearly.
He looked pretty good in game 2. Game 1, there was something wrong. Definitely, I mean, you can clearly see in his gameplay. Game 2 didn't look like. I mean, he did kind of every once in a while grimace here and there, but for the most part, his shot was back. So I'm expecting the same Luka to come out in game 3. So with that, you have anything to add here, just general wise, before we get into these key players?
Two things. Again, I'll keep it super brief. The one thing, number one, it's crazy how Gafford went from 8,500 to 11. He went up 2,500 from game one to game two after having that, monstrous game, to where PJ Washington, arguably did even better. He had 19 fantasy points in game one, and then he had 55 fantasy points in game two, and he only went up 1,000 or 500 to 1,000. So pretty ridiculous. I don't know what they're doing over there. And then real quick, just as you mentioned, yeah, the Vegas does not have the West Coast down. Denver was favored in game one, lost. Denver favored in game two, lost. Uh, Game three,
Minnesota.
Minnesota favored. Minnesota, yeah, favored. They lost by like close to 27, and then same thing over here. So it's just, yeah, basically do with the opposite of what Vegas is doing on the West Coast. But yeah, let's go ahead and dive in, baby. I'm ready to talk about
All right, yeah, let's go ahead and
the
start
game.
it up. Who you got as your first key player here?
Hey man, first key player. Like I told you, I'm going to this well just about every game unless the salary gets out of control. But Mr. Daniel Gafford here, um, he did come down 500, so he's now at 10,500. Game one, he had 44 fantasy points, and then last game he had 27 fantasy points. And again. Uh, I now they're going home. He's definitely a player that's going to play better in front of his home crowd. Um, and I could see him having another great game, meaning 33 plus fantasy points, you know. Again, I'm not expecting 45, 48 somewhere in there, but I am expecting, mid 30s, late 30s in fantasy points, and that's what you're looking for out of someone with 10-5 and at the 10-5 salary. And again, we know what his upside is. I think his ownership will still probably be pretty heavy, especially in utility. Most likely also at pro. I'll play him more at the pro than the utility. Um, I might put him in star in one or two just in case, because some of these games have been pretty crazy. If SGA falls back down to earth, he could have a 44 fantasy point game or something. Luca could easily, hurt his knee or something. Kyrie in game one had like 31 or 32 fantasy points. So yeah, Gafford, staple of my lineups. I'll eat the chalk. I'll make the difference up somewhere else. And I'm going right back to that well because Lively, I just don't, it's just not the matchup for him. And I really don't see PJ Washington, having another insane game. Yes, will I have some exposure to him, but again, we're talking about Daniel Gafford. I will be overexposed. He'll be in most of my lineups. I'll be doing most likely 20 to 25 lineups. That's who I'm rolling with. What are your thoughts on me just sticking with the Gafford train here? And who do you got here for your first selection?
Yeah, me and Gaffer, we have a love hate relationship, but taking feelings out of building lineups and everything, I think he is a good play. In this, his projected roughly about 22, 23 fantasy points, and with the salary, so he's looking roughly around about a 2.2 points per salary payoff, which is not bad. It's not great, but
Yeah.
when you look at PJ Washington, he's about the same, and he's a thousand more salary wise. So you're basically kind of getting the same return there, and they both kind of have the same you
Uh,
know range of outcomes with their points. Gafford has
yeah.
20 to 40, and so does PJ Washington, 20 to 40, 20 to 50. So so I
Yeah.
think Gafford's the way to go. It looks like he does have, I think, the better matchup. Uh, My only concern is he did come out of the game and go back to the locker room last game for his
I
hand.
hand.
I know
I
he
don't
did
know.
come back in. However, I'm curious how that's going to affect the rotation in this matchup. I'm going to probably keep an eye on that there. But Lively hasn't. I thought he was going to be decent in this matchup. He just something happened between last matchup and this one. It's not working out for him. So Gafford's really their presence down there, and unfortunately I don't think Chet or Jalen Williams, number two,
No.
have actually been able to stop him. Gafford kind of gets what he wants down there. So yeah, great pick, love it. Yeah, my pick's a little bit more obvious for my first pick. I'm gonna go Mr. Luka Doncic. Kind of got to, going at MVP. He did drop down. He's at 16K now. He's the second highest on the slate. So after having, a bad first game at 17K, and then 17K, he pulled out a 63-point fantasy night, and then they drop him 1,000. So
Yeah.
I'm gonna. It's almost like forcing you to kind of go to him. He's 41, averaging 41 minutes, 27.1 usage. He's averaged 51.6, projected 54.2. With that projection of 54.2, you're looking at about a 3.4 points per salary there, and that's the highest on the slate. Even compared to SGA, he's only projected 49, and with his salary at the 16.5 mark, he's actually only about a 2.9. So I like the Luka, and like I said, he has a range of, at least in this series, from 40 to 60. I think 40 something was going on in that first game injury wise or something, but I think he's more in that 50 to 60 range outcome. So I like basically the floor and the ceiling aspect for Luka at that price range now. So that's what for my first key player. What do you think about that? Before I get to my second.
Right on. So yeah, love the pick, obviously. So my big thing here, my only 2 cents to add would be I really will like Luca at the star because I feel like the star position, his ownership should be significantly lower. Is what I'm thinking. I'm hoping people are gonna be like, okay, he's at home. He looked great in this last game. Uh, things are coming together. And SGA, he's got back, he's just on fire right now. He's got, 66 fantasy points last game, 60 before that. Um, and again, I'm hoping people look at those projections and go, oh, well, Luka's projected for more. So, let's go ahead and slide him up to MVP. Um, it just, I'm just hoping the salary trolls don't go, oh, well, 16.5 is the highest, so he needs to be MVP. So again, I'll be alternating them back and forth. Both of them clearly have the highest ceiling. Um, I hate to say I'm not counting Kyrie out, but I'm 0 for 2 thinking Kyrie's going to step up and do something. And I believe Kyrie's price, I do believe, also went up, if I'm not mistaken,
Yeah, it
like
went up
500.
500. Yeah.
Yeah, so that just doesn't really make a lot of sense to me. So I'll have plenty of exposure to Luca. My main thing, I think I'll be overexposed to him in the star as opposed to MVP, hoping that SGA just continues doing what he's doing. So, and that way it's almost like a safety net in case Luca's need does out of nowhere, hamper him like it did in game one.
Well,
So,
yeah, just for your own knowledge here. So Luka last game, 43% MVP, 14% star.
or
SGA, 44% MVP, 26% star. So yeah, Luke.
Now those salaries make a big difference though. So with SGA going up 1,000 and Luca coming down, that should affect the
So that
decisions,
means
And
Luca
then
will be higher in the star than he is in the MVP, and then SGA would be higher in MVP,
e
and star will go
e
down.
I mean, but wouldn't you think if people, and I don't mean to take this conversation too long, but I mean, if when people go to use that optimizer, when it's going to show Luca as the one, getting a higher return, Shea getting, let's just say, three times his salary, and Luca's projected for
Well,
3.4-ish,
yeah, I mean, but yeah, that's if, I mean, yeah,
you know,
you'll beat 20% of the field that whatever the people that just
like
go and buy these optimizers and hit optimize and then enter in whatever it comes up.
the
But
top.
you're good if you want to be up there, placing, in the higher money. You're going to have even the professionals, and I would call them professionals or whoever,
Yeah.
people that
Right.
know how to use an optimizer and program it accordingly. And just looking at that, Luca has the higher, basically EV, that the estimated value and the points per salary. So just being able to see that puts him over the SGA aspect there. So I don't.
Uh,
I mean, I'm gonna have both of them, but I think I'll be expecting Luca in this one. And I think, like I
Dude,
said, people might just hit the optimizer, and Luca's going to pop up MVP probably 98% of the time.
yeah,
But I'm more worried I can eat the chalk in Luca and I'll make it up later because I
somewhere
have
else.
it's just more than likely Luca will meet that threshold there. So
Yep. Yeah, I feel you. And it's going to be pretty evenly matched anyway between those two up at both spots, I can imagine. So like you said, we're going to have to make difference somewhere else. So, okay, awesome. Yeah, no, great pick. Who do you got here for your second pick?
second pick, moving on to, I'm gonna go his number two, Kyrie Irving.
Yeah.
I think it is time for him to kind of be the Kyrie Irving we saw against the Suns. He was averaging about 44 and a half fantasy points against the Suns. He is only averaging about 35 now, 34.9 in this matchup. His salary did go up to 14.5. He was at 14K, but I mean he is getting the minutes, 39.4, usage 16.8. He is projected slightly higher this matchup, about 38 fantasy points, which it's not bad. That would actually, if he hits his average that we saw in the Suns game, he actually is up there with Luca in that points per salary at the 44 mark. But if he just hits the 37, that puts him at a 2.6, which it's good for the slate, but it's I might be potentially looking elsewhere. I have a feeling he's going to have one of his better games coming into home, and he kind of needs to pick it up just a little bit because I don't think PJ Washington is going to have a 55 fantasy point night again.
Yeah.
He might be 30 or so, but Kyrie's clearly their number two offensive weapon, and I think it's time he's going to step up in this one. He is averaging 14 and a half points, 2 rebounds, 7 assists, 2 steals, 1.5 blocks. He is shooting the ball, so he's not afraid to. It's just he's only about averaging 4.5 makes to 11 attempts, and 1.5 of those for three. He basically shoots 3 a game, makes about 2 or so 3-pointers. He gets to the line, but yeah, I like him. I'll have him definitely at the start, but I will have, if I did 10 lineups, I might have 1 or 2 of him at the MVP just to, with the
Just in
possibility
case.
he hits that higher range of outcome there. So, what do you think about
Yeah.
number 2? Yeah, and then moving on to yours.
Yeah, I mean, as you know, I've gone Kyrie is in my top three in games one and game two. I feel a little burned by him. Obviously, game one was not pretty, at 31 fantasy points. Game two, at least, in the victory, he did get 39 fantasy points. So it's nice to see the improvement there. And he even improved while Luca improved. So maybe it is one of those things where it's not that he needs to step up if Luca's not doing it. It's that when Luca's on fire, now they can't give attention to both of them. You know what I'm saying? And so that's what's going to free up as they're doing something to someone else. Excuse me. So, yeah, I'll definitely, especially with the 500 going, his salary going up 500. I do like that as well to help keep people off of him as well. I think he will be pretty pretty highly under owned compared to Luca and SGA, at least in some of the positions, just because it's pretty obvious with the Luca and SGA with what their upside is and what they've shown. Because we're still waiting for that game from Kyrie. Being at home, Kyrie is one of those guys that he's going to feed off the crowd at home. So yeah, man, love the pick. Like I said, I had him in games 1 and 2. Unfortunately, he didn't get me the money, so I'm sure third time's a charm. So you know, my saying, you got to have a short memory. I'll definitely have some exposure to him. Not quite as much as what I did in games 1 and 2, but yeah, great pick. Like it a lot. So rolling over to my second pick, I'm gonna go ahead and roll down to Mr. Aaron Wiggins for OKC. He's at 7,500. Man, is it slim pickings down. Huh. Trying to find, when you're trying to get Luca and SGA in the same lineup, um, really, or Kyrie, like trying to get two of those three makes it pretty difficult with what to do below. And to be super honest, I'll just be real, man. I don't feel good at Dort at 10,000. I don't feel good at Giddy at 9,000. I don't feel good at Lively at 8,500. I don't like Tim Hardaway at 8K. So at this point, man, it's just rough. So, Wiggins to me at the 7,500. He's got the great matchup. Um, he's not afraid to shoot the ball. Um, it looks like in game 1, 16 real life points. He shot 5 of 7, 3 from 4 from 3, 3 from 4 at the line, 5 rebounds, 2 assists, a block, and a steal, all in 23 minutes. So he does a little bit of it all. That's what I like to see, especially, out of someone that's at the 7,500 mark. I was kind of torn between him and Cason Wallace, but Wiggins is definitely going to be my go-to at utility. I'm not putting him at anywhere except utility. I'm not expecting him to have enough to be in the pro position with the superstars that are above him. So this is strictly a utility play. Um, so yeah, that's my. I'm not going to get too crazy here because there's really not many people to pick from. So I don't. That's more the analysis is process of elimination of who is left. Down here below, really at 10K and below, it gets pretty ugly. So what are your thoughts on that? And then I'll let you know my last play.
Um, yeah, no, I like the Wiggins play. However, I think this is actually OKC side wise,
Mhm.
probably the most fantasy production we've seen from people below
But
8K. I mean, you
yeah,
have Aaron
yeah,
Wiggins, you have Cason Wallace, you have Isaiah Joe. Well, the first game
yeah,
wise, and you have the other Jalen Williams, number 2. So they're all decent plays at there, and I mean, I don't trying to look for value on the East Coast, Eastern Conference games are very slim over there, and even the Denver Minnesota game that just happened. Finding value in those lower owned people, it doesn't seem. OKC just seems to have a larger rotation compared to the other teams.
yeah,
I mean, New York placed 4 people. Uh,
yeah,
well, they're about to be down to 4 people with everybody getting freaking hurt, but and then Denver plays 6, so it's like, and those people are always lowest their price is like 9,500, so it's like, do you really kind of play like someone below there? Maybe Braun at 7K, but no, I like Wiggins. He's definitely one of the ones that I like more there. I think there is 4 OKC wise there, but I think Wiggins would be one of my favorites there. I mean, he is looking like 29 fantasy points first game, 14 the second one. He's projected about 14 and a half this game, so that puts him about a 1.9 ish points to salary ratio, which is the second highest on there. So I'll get into my third pick and I'll show you that that's my third pick would be the one person I think I like just a little slightly more, but I will definitely be basically swapping these two players out. So stay tuned for my third pick to find out who I like just slightly better. But no, I like Wiggins. He'll be one of my good plays too.
Right on. This is just a different. So when I say like it's slim pickings in a different way, because it's like we have more guys that are seeing the floor that do have the opportunity to get, you know, above, like, let's just call it 18 to 28 fantasy points. There's actually quite a few people down there that can do that. But then the guys that are up here at that, from 10K and below, the Dort, the Giddy, where those minutes are there, even the lively Tim Hardaway, it's like where those salaries are higher, their upside, I have yet to see that. So
Oh yeah, no,
it's
I
a
would I
different.
would definitely think there's some players I would like to see more from that are priced higher, but then I think
Yeah.
I think a lot of people maybe get into the philosophy of people and things like that, but they see a name and they obviously pick an arbitrary value on that name, not
Yeah.
necessarily you know what outcomes they've seen or what
Well,
outcomes that can possibly happen. So it's like, okay, I see this guy. I see Dory. He's been doing good, but he hasn't done good this one. So we're just gonna throw him up there. So
yeah, and they love seeing the starters when they
yeah,
see the green check mark. Oh, he's starting. And so yeah, exactly. So right on. Well, my final selection here, my final selection is, my apology. Oh yeah, I should have known because I went him games 1 and 2. Jalen Williams, the starter. We'll go there.
number one.
Number one, yeah, we'll just go Jalen Williams, number one. Um, Basically, I just think he's a little overdue for a great game. He's at 12,000. If I'm not mistaken, when the series started, he was, I wanted to say 14, but I'm
14.
sure
He's
it was like
14.
one.
No, he's 14.
Why?
Game one, he was 14.
Yeah, so he's down 2,000 now, and I was still at 14. I rostered him, heavily. Um, and again, he hit 33 and then 35, so at least his floor's looking good. And the games before that, with New Orleans, it was 45, 42, 38. So I'm going to be looking for, a 38 to even 48. I mean, he's got that upside. So if they're going to take a game in Dallas, he's got to step up and help SGA big time. And again, with him being 2,000 less, I've already been heavy on him the first 2 games. I can't get away from that. I'm going right back to that well. He's definitely, to me, clearly their second best player. He's clearly going to get the other minutes as long as the game stays close. So yeah, man, I'm just staying to that well. Um, this series has been, the only thing changing are their salaries, but it's been a real awkward change. So it's still allowing me to make some great builds that I want to make. And the hardest part is being contrarian. So it is about trying to find, hey man, who's that low owned guy, or who can I put somewhere in a multiplier to be low owned? I will have Jalen Williams at the star, at the pro, and just depending on the build, just for ownership purposes, possibly utility, because he still could be optimal at utility if he gets a 33 or a 35. He is 12,000. He's not 14 anymore, and we saw Jamal Murray be optimal in a utility spot. He was like 13.5 or 14, so it is possible that something weird like that might be what's optimal in this type of game. So That's my final pick. What are your thoughts on him, and who do you got here to wrap us up with for your final pick?
Yeah, no, I like him. I like the price. I like how he's coming down. He hasn't been having, bad games. He hasn't matched his
Yeah.
production against New Orleans. And the first one, I mean, he was averaging about 40.5 fantasy points in the first series against the Pelicans. So he has taken kind of I guess, a small step back. I mean,
Right.
he's averaging 35, so 5 fantasy points or so. I'll be looking for him to have a decent game. I do like him at that star. The position he's averaging about 16% there, and pro he's about 20%. Utilities is only about 3%. So definitely be a play there. However, I prefer to take the chance. His range to do well. I like the higher end of that in the star, and you'll still get pretty value there being under the 20% mark. And I think with his salary going down to 12K, you'll have even less ownership in the star because people correlate that salary with where he should be in the multiplier. Uh,
Yeah.
yeah, so
Yeah.
no, I definitely like him. Just with his projection at about 32.7 fantasy points, that's about a 2.73, 2.7 points per salary. So, but if he did get up to that 40 mark, now you're talking about 3.3, and he basically will have the same value as Luca would. So, yeah, I like him. I'll be probably pretty heavy on him in this matchup.
Nice. Awesome. Well, who you got here to wrap us up?
Well, I just wanted to make sure there is no confusion. I'm gonna go with the second Jalen Williams, Jalen Williams number two. Not as I'm not going to have him up in the MVP, but I do like him as a
Yeah.
utility play, as I did mention earlier. I do. This is my probably favorite pick of those people, below 8K range or so. He's coming in about 15.4 minutes. His usage is actually really nice for being on the floor so little, 18.9. He's averaging 19.8 fantasy points. He's only projected about 14 in this matchup. With his projection at 14, that still puts him at a 2.1 points for salary, which is, like I mentioned, about zero point 0.2 over the Aaron Wiggins. They both have basically kind of the same range. I mean, Williams scored 25 game one, 15 game two. Wiggins scored 29 game one, 15 game two. So you are saving 500 salary with Williams. Excuse me, with Williams, Wiggins, Williams. Well,
Yeah.
too close. So to find value, but that's why, like I said, I'm gonna be basically potentially doing lineups where I'll have the same lineup with Jalen Williams. Boom, import it, same lineup. Wiggins, if I have that extra 500 salary there,
Yeah.
I do like both of them. I mean, yeah. Other than that, he looks pretty good when he's out on the floor, and he's really, the second option to Chet Holmgren, who's, he seems to be only averaging probably like low 30 minutes. He did get 36 minutes last game, but first game was only about 31. So I expect Jalen Williams to continue to get anywhere from probably 15, 18 minutes or so, and it looks like he's being pretty productive with the time he's getting. So, what do you think about number two to match your number one? Yeah.
Yeah, yeah, no, great play. Just as you mentioned, I will be doing the same thing you're doing. I'll be making the same lineup, and then taking out my guy, putting in Jalen Williams, and just doing the one iteration because it's just, man, what this guy's just a beast, fantasy point per minute beast. I mean, for multiple times, 13 minutes against San Antonio, 28 fantasy points. 14 minutes, 24 fantasy points against Phoenix, and that's scoring only three. He does a little bit of everything, and those are the type of guys that you want, that are really, they don't have to score a whole lot of points, but they'll get some points, some rebounds, some assists, some blocks, some steals, and all that definitely comes together. And then should the off chance that he sees, 22 minutes or 25 minutes, dude, it's wide open with what he could do. He could be a slate breaker for sure. Um, so and I also think he matches up better, uh, with a Gafford or with a PJ Washington than Chet. Just because Chet's so tall and skinny still, you know, working on trying to get that NBA body. So, um, yeah, man, I love the play. I'll be having a lot of exposure to him. Again, yeah, he is definitely more that utility play. Um, I don't really think I'll be able to sneak him up into the pro, but I will be doing all sorts of different iterations in utility with him, with both him and the other play I was talking about. Sorry, I'm still I'm still just shocked with sorry, just got a lot going on. Giddy, I just keep looking at Giddy and I'm just like, this is insane. He's 9,000 and he literally had 9 fantasy points last game and then 14 before that. And like, he's still 9K. It's just unbelievable. Uh, but yeah, nope, great pick. Love it. I think you and I are pretty much on the same page with what's going on. So I'll be interested tomorrow, uh, as we talk about our builds, how that takes us. And hey, all you guys out there in the community, man, if you want to be a part of that, David and I, are always talking throughout the day. Please leave a comment if you want in on the discussion, because we're constantly, making changes as new news comes out and stuff like that. So please drop a comment, ask a question, and join in on the conversation. So
Yeah.
kick it on over to you,
So
buddy.
yeah, those are our key players. It turns out, yeah, we had some 6 different ones, so that's good. More information. So like David did mention, if you need any more input on players that we didn't mention, obviously fortunate enough we don't want to cover every player because it'd be 6-hour video. But with that, we're about to give the 2 free lineups, so make sure you do hit that like, subscribe, notification bell. It does help out. It just takes a few seconds just to click a button. It's free. And if you're just joining, welcome to DFS Insights. David and I just got done explaining our 3 key players each, in which will basically explain why our lineups look and are constructed the way they are. So if you're looking at our lineups, wondering what's going on, why we did what we did, just go ahead and go back to the timestamp for key players and just watch it, even if it's on 1.5 times speed. Just watch it. You'll understand. So with that further ado, here's those lineups. Looking pretty nice. Looks like we went a few different routes here. Yeah, did mention there's a difference. All right, nice. So yeah, keep it in mind. We are covering the bulk of these, especially these Western Conference games here. So I believe the next video up on the slate here would be the next Game 4, Denver versus Minnesota. So look, I'm going to be paying attention to the Vegas odds, seeing who they have favored, and then going heavy on the other team. No, but yeah, we'll probably be covering trying to be basically putting out a video day here to cover these playoffs. And as we wind down the NBA season, we are also looking forward to covering UFC here in the off season. And yeah, look forward to you guys' support. So with that, David, you got anything else to say?
Hey, looks like you and I both agree. We both have 3-2 Dallas on here as far as the players go. So sounds like you and I believe in Dallas on this next game. And Vegas is obviously saying otherwise. So, or no, does Vegas have them favored? Just forgot. Wow,
Yeah.
sorry, I've had a long day. So if you have them favored, that means I am gonna have to definitely make a couple stacked OKC ones then, just because of Vegas. But yeah, love the free lineups. Like I said, David and I both enter these into the main. So we put our money where our mouth is. Both of these are in there. We wouldn't be doing that otherwise. So, yep. Hey, good luck to all you guys out there, and hope to see you guys up at the top.